What's up everybody, Unreal here with a new type of video for my channel where today I've made a little list. This list is going to be of my favorite vehicles for anti-griefing and counter-griefing in Grand Theft Auto Online. Have you been minding your own business while in a public session only to get shot dead, blown out of the sky, or chased by people you didn't do anything to? Well, today I have a few recommendations that might help you out. Now, I'd like to state right now that I'm not the best pilot or even the best ground player in the world, so if you want to see some great anti-griefer videos, or if you want to see some ace pilots in Grand Theft Auto Online, I'm going to give a shout out to ProjectHelisexuality, NitrixWarlord, or TheHummerGuy, all on YouTube. But now that you've tried the best, try mine. Let's get started with a list of my favorite vehicles in no particular order. First off, it's the Akula. The Akula is a Soviet helicopter with a good amount of versatility. It can be equipped with barrage or homing missiles, bombs, single or dual machine guns, and upgradable armor. But its real party piece is the helicopter's stealth mode, allowing you to be hidden on the radar from all players on the map. The Akula is able to conceal you and carry any group members who ride with you, even if they're carrying an item that would otherwise mark them on the map. Besides the element of surprise that this offers the player, the Akula's stealth mode also automatically drops your wanted level to 2 stars, making an escape from the law much easier. Handling can be sensitive, but once you spend enough time behind the controls, you'll get a feel for it. The main downside here is that you are not given any kind of countermeasures to fight against missile attacks, making you vulnerable to certain vehicles unless you're very good at dodging. Overall, though, this is an excellent vehicle, and it's a great utility helicopter to get stuff done in a public lobby on the down low, and you'll likely feel safer in this helicopter than most other vehicles in the game. Total cost without discount, $3.7 million. Next up, it's the Laser. The Laser is an American jet reminiscent of an F-16 that provides excellent speed, maneuverability, and a lock-on missile system with devastating cannons on the nose of the plane that shred through nearly everything that they hit. This is one of the most desirable aircrafts in the entire game. It does have its downsides though. The plane does not feature upgradable armor, making it somewhat of a glass cannon, since heavy or explosive snipers with well-placed shots are going to be able to disable this jet or knock it out of the sky completely. Missile strikes to the rear cause pieces of the plane used for navigation to fall off, which render it basically useless, and the plane does not feature bombs or any sort of countermeasures like flares or chaff. So in order to avoid missiles, you're going to have to dodge them manually. Now this is achievable due to this aircraft's excellent speed, but it hampers your ability to fight. However, a persistent Oppressor Mark II player that insists on trying to take down your jet will probably run out of missiles and have to retreat if you drag the dogfight out long enough. Lastly, this jet is very expensive, at over $6 million. I was fortunate enough to buy this at half price, at which point it's a fantastic value, but if money is not an object and you'd like to have the last word of fighter jets, the Laser may be for you. Total cost without discount, $6.5 million. Next up, it's the Molotov. The Molotov is a Soviet jet from the early 1950s Cold War era, similar to the MiG-15 or the MiG-17. Now, I'll start off by saying right away that this jet is likely not the best choice, purely for defense or offense actually, when you compare it with other options. I bought this jet because it's a cool plane. It's viable in combat in the right hands, and it's extremely easy to fly, particularly due to its giant air brake in the back. Perhaps my favorite feature of this jet is the ease of landing this thing and taking off in otherwise difficult to navigate places. Check it out. The Molotov features upgradable armor, which helps durability, a machine gun, locking missiles, and countermeasures, and it's available in a number of pretty good-looking liveries. When compared to other available jets, the standard machine gun on the front will be weak compared to the cannons found on vehicles like the Laser, the Hydra, or the Savage, and therefore it's not all that effective against ground targets, and it's going to require some more work to shoot another plane out of the sky if you aren't using the available missiles. I really do enjoy this jet, and it's a great way to get around the map with a sense of security, but if I was going to go get a jet out of my hangar looking for a fight, this would not be the first one that I'd pick. Total cost without discount, $4.8 million. Next up is the B-11 Strike Force. The B-11 Strike Force is the GTA Online version of the A-10 Thunderbolt II, nicknamed the A-10 Warthog. This is an excellent jet that provides an extreme amount of versatility. It features upgradable armor, which is very durable against both explosions and bullet damage, countermeasures, such as the flare and chaff, a cannon that fires depleted uranium rounds, homing and barrage missiles, good speed and maneuverability, and even bombs. On the downside, while the cannon does make a wonderful noise and it looks cool, it should be noted that this cannon is not very effective against players on foot, though it does reasonably well against vehicles. If this jet had the same cannon that's featured on the Laser and the Hydra, there would be very little reason to get any other jet in this game. But as it is, this is quite a jack of all trades and it's a great value. Total cost without discount, $3.8 million. Next up, it's the Hunter. The Hunter is modeled after an Apache helicopter, and it's arguably the most dangerous helicopter in the game versus other players. It features barrage and locking missiles, bombs, countermeasures, and a second player can control a chain gun from the gunner's seat. Now, this helicopter has very twitchy handling, and I would argue that it takes the longest to get used to, but once you do, it can be very agile. If you really love helicopters, this is probably your best bet against a jet, an Oppressor, or a Deluxo. The only real negatives to this helicopter, in my opinion, would be the handling, which is harder for me to get used to as a novice pilot, and the price, which is about $400,000 more than the Akula and about $1.6 million more than a Savage. Total cost without discount, $4.1 million. Next up is the Savage. The Savage is based on a Soviet Mi-24 helicopter and features a devastating cannon on the front, similar to the one that you'd find in a Hydra or a Laser. Combined with lock-on missiles and slow but controllable handling, this vehicle is great for hunting down NPCs and ground targets, and makes very short work of missions like Headhunter. Earlier in GTA Online's lifespan, this helicopter had kind of a unique hitbox in a certain place on the belly of the helicopter that made dodging missiles relatively easy using a certain method, which was very helpful since the Savage does not offer any kind of a countermeasure. However, I believe this has since been patched. As a result of that, combined with the slow handling which makes it very difficult to change directions in a hurry, this helicopter can be very vulnerable to the much faster jets and Oppressors. Now, if you happen to catch other vehicles in the crosshairs of your cannon, they're likely done for. It's worth mentioning before we move on to the next vehicle, though, that this helicopter is much less expensive than the others, starting at about $2.6 million. Total cost without discount, $2.6 million. Next up is the Hydra. Based on the infamous Harrier jet, this jet features a VTOL system, vertical takeoff and landing, that allows you to control this aircraft like a helicopter, or as a normal jet with the push of a button. This makes the Hydra possibly even more lethal to slow-moving or ground targets than the Laser, since you have the opportunity to slow down and keep sustained fire on an area of your choosing. It is worth noting, however, that in VTOL mode, the Hydra will not be as responsive or maneuverable as a helicopter, so staying in this flight mode for a prolonged period is going to be dangerous because it leaves you vulnerable to attack that you likely won't be able to dodge. In its regular flight mode, the Hydra is very fast, very maneuverable, and has similar armaments to the Laser, including the devastating cannon and lock-on missiles. At $4 million, this vehicle is considerably less expensive than its cousin, the Laser, and is a great option for people who need to buy their first attack aircraft. The downsides of this aircraft should certainly include the lack of countermeasures, lack of upgradable armor like the B-11 would have, and the missile tracking itself, which lasts about as half long as it does on the Laser. Overall, though, I think it's a great aircraft and I would highly recommend it. Total cost without discount, $4 million. Next up, it's the Buzzard. The Buzzard is based off of the Boeing MH-6 Little Bird helicopter, and it's a small attack helicopter that features a machine gun, locking missiles, and seating for multiple players. Now, I cannot stress enough how easy this helicopter is to fly compared with its counterparts, and how easy it is to summon if you're a CEO, since all you have to do is request it from the player menu and it spawns right nearby. While it's obviously not as robust and viable against Oppressors as a jet, or some of the much more expensive helicopters, it's a great place to begin, and besides being a vehicle to fight back against players with that are trying to grief you, it's a relatively inexpensive vehicle to buy, and serves as a fast and efficient way to get across the map, and allows you to easily complete missions involving ground targets like Headhunter. This helicopter is obviously not without its downsides, including the lack of countermeasures, and the large windows that leave you very exposed to gunfire. All in all, though, I say without hesitation that I still use the Buzzard more than any other helicopter in this game due to its convenience and how easy it is to fly effectively. Total cost without discount, $1.75 million. Next up, it's the Stromberg. Time to move away from aerial vehicles for just a bit. The Stromberg are styled faithfully after a Ferrari Berlinetta Boxer or perhaps a Ferrari 308, but this vehicle is much more than just a classic sports car. It features built-in machine guns mounted in the nose under a retractable cover, as well as auto-locking missiles that have the ability to quickly acquire a target, even above its direct line of sight. In addition to its ability to quickly lock onto targets, the effectiveness of the missile tracking, even when your reticle isn't red, is outstanding. Very similar to the Oppressor Mark II, meaning that if you were being harassed by a lower-flying helicopter, jet, Deluxo, or Oppressor, you can quickly knock it out of the sky. and because the Stromberg is a ground vehicle, you can often dart between nearby buildings when you're in the city, and be more difficult to hit with a missile for people on the Oppressors. Now if you're struck, don't panic. The Stromberg can withstand up to 6 missile strikes, and this vehicle has the ability to convert into a submarine with the push of a button if you drive it into the water, where you'll eventually be out of the reach of aircraft that could otherwise lock onto you or hit you with a cannon. And if somebody were to come after you underwater anyway, you'll have a total of 60 torpedoes to defend yourself with. While some people argue that the Stromberg has been outclassed by the newer Oppressor Mark II, I still feel as though it still deserves its old nickname, the Fly Swatter. Total cost without discount, $3.2 million. Next up, it's the Night Shark. The Night Shark takes us in a slightly different direction. This vehicle is mostly about defense rather than offense. Much like the Insurgent, the Night Shark is a heavily armored vehicle based off of the Dart's Combat, which provides you with fantastic defense against attacking aircraft, being able to withstand up to 27 missile strikes. It does come equipped with front-mounted machine guns, though they're not really all that useful since you're not able to aim them at the sky to fight against attacking aircraft. When this vehicle first debuted, I noticed that while you can buy armor plating for the windows, which obscures view of the driver and passengers, it didn't actually offer any extra protection from bullets, unlike the armored Kuruma, making you susceptible to gunfire. Acceleration, top speed, and handling, on or off-road in the Night Shark is great, and I use it as a vehicle to protect myself from air attacks if I need to get from one location to the other without being blown up along the way. An Oppressor Mark II will exhaust its entire missile supply before they're able to destroy your vehicle, and while chasing you around tall buildings or winding back roads, they're likely going to miss some of their missile strikes anyway. While I love its heavy armor and great maneuverability, I'm not a fan of the, quote, bulletproof plating, which does very little, yet stops you from using weapons outside of your window, nor am I a fan of the nearly useless machine guns up on the front. Total cost without discount, $1.25 million. Next up, it's the Avenger, one of my favorites. The Avenger is based off of the Bell Boeing V-22 Osprey aircraft and can be partially summarized as an airborne version of the Mobile Operations Center. It's a massive propeller plane with heavy armor, a VTOL system, and autopilot that can be outfitted with multiple cannons, bombs, and countermeasures. It can be manned by a single player or crew, but in the hold of the plane you can actually fit the entire lobby inside. Much like the Mobile Operations Center, it can also be equipped with things like a vehicle workshop, weapon workshop, wardrobe area, and a CCTV area. On the downside, because of how large and robust this aircraft is, with its large dimensions and heavy armor, it's pretty slow compared to other aircraft, and it's not very maneuverable. And while the base cost of this plane is $3.45 million, upgrades can be costly, and you must own a facility at a minimum cost of $1.25 million for the one available in Paleto Bay. However, while this is an expensive aircraft, the autopilot allows you to operate the cannons by yourself, and combined with the heavy armor, this makes the Avenger somewhat of a flying fortress, which means that most players aren't going to mess with you. Total cost without discount, $3.5 million. Next up, it's the Insurgent, and specifically the Armed Insurgent Pickup. Based on the Terabyte RPV, this vehicle is similar to the Night Shark in that I would classify it more as a vehicle that allows you to survive attacks rather than repel them or put you on the offense. It's also able to withstand 27 missile strikes, it seats 4 players, and is very fast and maneuverable with a great ability to ram your way through obstacles without losing much speed or gaining much damage. The Insurgent Pickup also comes equipped with different levels of armor, a top-mounted machine gun to fire back at people attacking you, though the gunner's going to be exposed to enemy fire when they do so, and an option for proximity mines, which will help you against ground vehicles chasing you, but are going to be virtually useless against aerial attacks. Total cost of the vehicle is $1.1 million if you factor in the cost of the original unarmed Insurgent, plus the upgrade cost to equip it with weaponry. But in order to do the upgrade, you have to buy a Mobile Operations Center, which in itself is another large purchase of about $1.2 million for a starting price. Total cost without discount, $1.1 million. Next up, it's the Terabyte. Based off the Mercedes Zetros Expedition vehicle, this rolling fortress is a fantastic purchase regardless of whether you're having a problem with griefers or not, since it allows you to manage your businesses and launch missions from within the back of the vehicle using a built-in computer system. It can also be equipped with a multi-target locking missile system, which can target up to 5 people at the same time, and the infamous drone launcher that allows you to remotely control a flying drone that can both tase and blow up players or their vehicles using a self-destruct button. The Terabyte is extremely durable, being able to survive 34 rocket hits, making you a very difficult target against Oppressor Mark IIs or Deluxos. I can't count the number of times I've seen a determined amateur griefer sit outside of a Terabyte and mindlessly focus on firing rockets while a Terabyte player carefully launches a drone, tases them off their oppressor, and then blows them to smithereens with a self-destruct feature. Yet again, that's another nod to ProjectHelisexuality. Check him out on YouTube. It's satisfying every time I see it. Last but not least, the Terabyte is required if you wish to upgrade or modify the Oppressor Mark II yourself. On the downside, the missile tracking is rather poor, and you won't be able to do very much against people in jets or fast helicopters other than hide underneath a bridge. And while the base cost is just under 1.4 million, the upgrades available for this vehicle could boost the cost up to 3.5 million, so it can be a rather expensive purchase, though I'd say it's very worthwhile. Total cost without discount, $1.4 million. Walking back a little bit, next up is the Mobile Operations Center. The Mobile Operations Center is a large 18-wheeler with a trailer that houses gun and vehicle workshops, personal quarters, and allows access to Mobile Operations Center missions. In order to pull this thing around, you're going to be able to select either a Phantom Custom or the more durable Hauler Custom semi-truck. They will be able to withstand only a few rockets, but the MOC trailer itself can withstand up to 19 rocket hits, exploding on the 20th. The Mobile Operations Center can be equipped with front and rear-mounted cannons, offering moderate defense against low-flying aircraft and good defense against ground vehicles and pedestrians. The MOC is required to upgrade the Insurgent armed variant that I mentioned earlier. On the downside, the MOC has poor maneuverability due to its size, and because it's so tall, you can actually sometimes become stuck underneath certain bridges in the game. By comparison to other things in the game, the base price of $1.2 million is actually less expensive to other armored or weaponized vehicles, and it's a pretty good value if you make use of its functionality inside. But even with the cannons, I would still say that the Mobile Operations Center is more of a defensive option rather than an offensive option. Total cost without discount, $1.2 million. Next up, it's the RC Bandido. The RC Bandido is a remote-controlled toy monster truck that serves as somewhat of a counterpart to the drone that the players can launch from the Terabyte. Much like the drone, the RC Bandido is invisible on enemy players' radar, and it's quiet, making it somewhat difficult to detect. It can be equipped with a jump feature to get over curbs and other smaller objects, proximity mines with either an EMP or a kinetic knockdown, and can self-destruct, blowing up players or their vehicles. While this won't offer you a way to fight back against aerial attacks, this can make short work of oblivious griefers at street level or people hovering above the pavement with an Oppressor Mark II. This vehicle is a blast to use, and it's well worth the cost in my opinion. Total cost without discount, $1.6 million. Next up, it's the Kinjali. Based on the Polish PL-01 light tank, the Kinjali is what the Rhino tank really should have been. It's a great armored ground vehicle that can hold up to 4 players, and it's equipped with a large cannon, a railgun, machine gun, proximity mines, and grenade launchers, which all help to curtail people who may be coming after you in a ground vehicle or on foot. It is faster and more agile than the Rhino, and it's more durable against explosions, which renders the Rhino rather useless. Due to its lighter weight, it's also able to run over other vehicles without exploding them, which refrains from damaging your tank, allowing you to survive longer. On the negative side, it's difficult to fight against aircraft as the cannon and the railgun can't aim high enough for things passing directly overhead, and its starting cost can be prohibitively high when you consider how much slower the vehicle is compared to a helicopter or a jet of similar cost. While it's a fun vehicle and it's a good addition to your collection, it would not be my first go-to vehicle for starting or ending a fight. Total cost without discount, $3.9 million. And now we come to the finale, and I hate to mention it, but I have to. That's the Oppressor Mark II. Unfortunately, no list would be complete without recommending this vehicle. As much as I hate the fact that it even exists, I have to recommend it. The Oppressor Mark II is a flying jet engine motorcycle that allows you to contend with jets, helicopters, and almost all ground targets under the right circumstances. It's extremely fast, which makes it a great vehicle to get across the map with in a short amount of time, and believe it or not, it's actually faster on the ground than it is in the air. It can be equipped with auto-locking missiles that offer superior tracking and quick target acquisition, and it's easily summonable using your motorcycle club menu. It can also be equipped with countermeasures if you add them, and it can also be fitted with machine guns rather than missiles, or a cannon which provides you with moderate firepower for targets on the ground. I'm not alone in saying that this vehicle is nearly game-breaking, and it's a force to be reckoned with in any multiplayer lobby. This vehicle, much like a couple of the aforementioned helicopters, would make very short work of a mission like Headhunter, and despite its base cost, and the cost of the Terabyte you're going to have to buy in order to upgrade the Oppressor Mark II, it's arguably a must-have purchase. Total cost without discount, $3.9 million. Now, without making the length of this video last into the next century, I'd like to give everybody a few honorable mentions of vehicles that are fun and can be effective in the right hands, but they're not vehicles that I deemed as an essential purchase for myself. Those vehicles would include the armored cars, the RC tank, the Rhino, the Deluxo, the Oppressor Mark I, the jetpack, the Starling, the Pyro, the anti-aircraft trailer, the Chernobog, the Ruiner 2000 or the fully loaded Ruiner 2000 if you activate that mission, and the Scramjet. Now, I did not buy the majority of these vehicles simply because the ones that I own currently have been sufficient for me. As always, my vehicle collection is always going to expand with time, and I may revise my list of go-to vehicles as time goes on. But the list I provided here should give everybody a good idea of what kind of tools are available for you to fight back against people who log into the game with a specific purpose to piss other people off. Now, while I don't believe in honor among thieves, which we all are, by the way, when we play Grand Theft Auto, I think it's still possible to be a good player during your adventures in San Andreas. So which vehicle in my list, or the list of honorable mentions, is the best? The answer is whatever works for you. The first jet, helicopter, or ground vehicle you pick may not be the most effective thing for you. It's going to take experimentation, but once you find that perfect vehicle, you're going to be able to move around the map with confidence again. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel to help me put out new content on a regular basis. Until next time, I'm Unreal, and you've just watched a video from an average gamer.